Hello, algebra students. Mr. Lawrence here, and this is a little review to get you ready for the test on Friday. Um, you should be able to say after this that I can graph quadratic equations and inequalities, and I can solve quadratic equations. This should all be review. You should know how to do these things, but in case you don't, there's an opportunity to pick it up and get it before the test. All right, first off, I've got my equation. I'm going to graph it. A couple notes. I know it's going to open upward. How do I know that? Because oops, A, B, C, easy as 1, negative 5, 5. A is positive, so therefore the parabola will open upward. So I'm going to go looking for my discriminant to see how many times it crosses the x-axis. B squared minus 4AC. And I'm going to plug in using parentheses. Shelby Buckles, did you hear that? Aaron Smith, I'm using parentheses. Always using parentheses when I substitute in. And so I'm going to get 25 minus 20, which is going to equal 5. I should have equal signs all throughout here. And so there are going to be two solutions. All right, I'm going to go looking for my vertex. X equals the negative of b over 2a. Well, that's going to be 2.5. That's the x coordinate of the vertex. Now I'm going to look for the y coordinate of my vertex. I'm going to put 2.5 in for x. And so I'm going to get 2.5 squared minus 5 times 2.5 plus 5. And I'll do that little math there. This is going to be 6.25. This is going to be 12.5, I believe. And then plus a 5. And so these two positives are going to get me 11.25. So I really have negative 1250 plus 11.25. And if I just subtract, I'm going to get 125. So it looks like it's going to be at negative 125. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my vertex. 2.5, negative 1.25. And so let's see here. 1, 2.5. 1.25 is going to be right about there. I know it's going to open upward, so I'll label it down here. Okay. And now I'm going to use the quadratic formula to go find my roots. The expression's not factorable, and so I'm going to do x equals negative b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, which is the same as 5 in this problem, all over 2a. And I'm going to simplify that to 5 plus or minus. Now, I can estimate the square root of 5. It's just going to be a little bit more than 2, maybe about 2.3. I'm not sure exactly. I'll go to my calculator. Oops, it's not on. Square root of 5 is approximately 2.236. So my estimation wasn't too bad. So I'll call it about 2.24. And then I'm going to divide by 2. So now I have two problems. I have 5 plus 2.24 divided by 2. And then I have 5 minus 2.24 and divide by 2. And so 5 plus 2.24 divided by 2 is going to end up with a root of 3.62, 3 6200ths. So I can plot that. 1, 2, 3.5 will be there. Maybe right about there. And then I'll label it so the reader knows what I'm trying to convey. Okay, and then I'll do 5 minus 2.24 and divide by 2. And I'll get 1.38. Of course, these aren't the exact roots because the square root of 5 is not exactly 2.24. The square root of 5 is an irrational number, right? And so that's going to be like maybe right there. And so it'll be 1.38 and then 0. And now I'm ready to draw my parabola. All right, this is so simple, it shouldn't be legal. All right, so let me do this. And I'm going to flip it. Flip, I say flip. Thank you. And there we go. A pretty looking parabola. All right, let's go down to this one. Now, it's an inequality. I know two things right away. There's going to be shading, and since it's not equal to, it's going to be a broken parabola. Now, it will open upward because A is still positive. So it's going to do something like this. By the way, on the test, I would expect some parabola to open downward. I've mentioned it enough times. I've shown you a few. All right, let's go looking for A, B, and C. Looks like we have one, negative 1449. Okay, and I'm going to do my discriminant. And so I'm going to do negative 14 squared minus 4 times A times C. And I believe that's 196. And I think it's going to be 196 again. Yeah, 98, 98, 196. So my discriminant ends up equaling 0. Well, I know that there's only going to be one root. My root will be the same as my vertex. So let's go find the vertex. X equals negative of b over 2a. There's going to be 7. So my root is at 7, 0. My vertex is at 7, 0 also. 9, 8, 7, right about there. I know it's opening upward, so I'm going to put 7, 0. Now, to go and use the quadratic formula would be foolish because all it's going to tell me is 7 if I do it. I already know 7. So I'm going to go ahead and use a t-table. And I know that 7, 0 is in my t-table. I need to pick two other x's. Now, normally I like to pick 0 for x, but if I do that, I'm going to get 49 for y. So I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to pick 6 for x, and then I'm going to pick 8. I'll do the math with 6, and I know I'm going to get the same answer with 8. So I'm going to get 6 squared minus 14 times 6 plus 49. Okay, well, 6 squared is 36. Let's see, it's going to end in 84 and a 49. The two positives are going to get me positive 85. So I really have a negative 84 plus an 85. Man, that was hard. 1. I know y value has to be the same for 8. So 6 is at 1, and 8 is also at 1. And now I can draw my parabola. And it's just going to do something like this. It'll probably start to climb really quick as I get more than 1 unit away from the vertex. Uh-oh, I've made a mistake. Back up, hold the phone. Who can catch my mistake? Yeah, it should be a broken parabola, right? So it's going to do something like this. Something like that. Okay, and now I've got to test for shading. Now, I will test for shading. I'll use Anna's color. I'll use purple. All right, and I can still use 0, 0 for shading on my test point. If I get a true statement, I'll shade out here around the parabola. If I get a false statement, I'll shade inside the parabola. So let's plug 0 in for y and 0 in for x. Well, won't this turn to 0? Won't that turn to 0? And then I'll get 49. Well, that's a true statement. 0 is less than 49, so I got to shade where my test point is. So all these points around my parabola will go ahead and make the inequality a true statement. All right, one last problem, and it's pretty easy. Solve for x. Spencer, I hope you're paying attention to this. This was what's bothering you the other day. Solve for x. Well, it's a quadratic equation, right? I know it's quadratic. Quadratic. When I'm solving, I'm looking for the roots, right? Or the zeros, the place where the parabola across the x-axis. I don't actually have to do all the graphing on this one. I just have to solve for x. Well, if I'm on the x-axis, what's true about y? Shelby Buckles can tell you that it's 0. So I'm going to put 0 in for y. X squared minus 12x plus 17. And then I'm just going to go right to the quadratic formula. A, B, C. If you wanted to do the discriminant first, you could to find out how many solutions. I'll tell you what, I'll do that just because it seems to be such a popular thing with you guys. I'll do the b squared minus 4ac. I won't be done when I do this. I'll just know how many solutions I have. So I'm going to get negative 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times 17. And so that'll be 144 or gross. And let me see, 3468. All right, so 144 minus 68, 76, I think. Yeah, that looks right, 76. So there's going to be 2 solutions. All right, so now I'm going to go use the whole quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, or 76. And I'm just going to double check that. I'm all of a sudden having a doubt. Minus 68, yeah, 76, good. All right, all over 2a. Okay, and so I'm going to get x is approximately equal to 12 plus or minus square root of 76. Well, square root of 81 is 9. Square root of 76 is getting kind of close to that. I'll bet you it's going to be about like 8.7-ish. Let's check the calculator and see what it tells us. 76. Yeah, 8.72 if I round to the hundredths place. 8.72. So then I have to divide by 2. So my two solutions are going to be at 12 plus 8 and 72 hundredths, divide by 2, and then 12 minus 8 and 72 hundredths, divide by 2. So 12 plus 8 and 72 hundredths, divide by 2, ends up with one solution. X is approximately equal to 10.36. You could call it 10.4. And the other solution, 12 minus 8.72 divided by 2, is going to be approximately 1.64. And I say approximately because the square root of 76 is an irrational number. 8.72 is not the square root of 76. It's just pretty close. If I take 8.72 and multiply by itself, I won't get 76 on the nose. I actually ended up getting 76.0384. So I actually ended up a little bit high because I had rounded up. Okay, that's it for your lesson for tonight. Mr. Lawrence signing off. Good night, everybody.